I Say Organic. It's based in Delhi. But today I just want to broadly talk about food. First thing I want to start with is by telling you that up until around 5 years ago, my lifestyle was, very usual, eating frozen food or usual oily takeaways, drinking 3-4 times a week. And I'm still young, so my body was coping with that. But at the same time, it was revolting. My belly was growing, acid reflux and other common health issues, which I don't want to gross you out by mentioning. They were becoming more and more regular. And thankfully, the concept of I Say Organic came to me, right? Because I think more than anything, it changed my own lifestyle. And now it's one where every morning I drink, I'm one of the crazy people who drinks green smoothies, eats lots of sprouts, salads, fruits, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, all that happened. And just I'll just walk you through my journey on how this shift came about and how I got into agriculture and food, which is one question I'm asked very frequently, coming from an engineering and entrepreneurship background and nothing to do with agriculture. Since 5 years, I've been working primarily with companies where social and environmental impact has been as important as profit. And while doing all of that, I came to realize that among many other paradoxes with development, which past speakers mentioned today, I started thinking that as we've progressed more and more, less and less importance we've started putting on the food we eat and our own health. So basically, on that note, you see that rare diseases have become mainstream in the past few decades, and at the same time, we see that the plight of farmers in India and across the world has also deteriorated. And this really struck me 3 years ago when I moved back to India. I was traveling quite extensively just to see what it's like to be out of the urban centers in India and what the problems of the common Indians were. And the more and more I reflected on this, I felt that basically what we're lacking as a society is emphasis on sustainable production and responsible consumption. And basically, if you want to move towards a world which is full of happy and fulfilled people, we need these as principles to live by. And I'll just explain them briefly. By sustainable production, basically I'm talking about goods produced with the environment in mind, basically in harmony with nature. And at the same time, the producers who have typically been neglected and exploited, we have to start respecting, rewarding and recognizing them. And then responsible consumption, on the other hand, is a very similar concept. It's just putting the onus on the consumers to make sure that whatever they're buying is in line with all these principles. And then lastly, and very importantly, I'd say that to have an egalitarian, happy and fulfilled world, we need people to be super healthy so that we can realize the maximum potential of everyone. So that sort of leads me to food, right? So I'm just tying together how my story evolved into getting me into organic food. And when I talk about food, I mean food which is incorporating all these principles. It's not the food that we eat which is industrially produced, which actually works against nature, which is basically to have one vegetable, you're using 15 different kinds of chemicals to grow it. In the process, you're depleting topsoil, polluting the groundwater. In the process, you're killing the marine life. Ultimately, you're doing damage to your own bodies and the future generations. And again, going against rewarding, recognizing the producers, which is actually leading to them moving away from agriculture, which again poses great threats for the future of food. Who is going to produce the food if the farmers are not interested in producing the food? So basically, all of this happened. Say again, 3 years ago, I was with this realization. I knew what the problem was, but I didn't know what I could do about it, right? So as a starting point, I chose to farm so that I know what it's like to be a farmer. So I leased some land in the state of Uttar Pradesh in a district called Devariya. I farmed there for 6 or 7 months. Obviously, I chose organic farming as that really resonated with me. So learned a lot about farming, learned about the problems of the farmers, and why I think organic farming works. There's a lot of myths around organic farming, and a lot of perceptions people have that organic cannot feed the world, and nothing can be organic in today's world, organic is too expensive, and even common things like, I've eaten chemicals all my life, if I switch to organic now, I'm 60 years old, what am I going to do for myself? So basically the 6-7 months I spent farming, first let me address the issue of organic not feeding the world, right? In 6-7 months, if I was able to grow something, I was basically just reading books and implementing techniques on my farm. And the production I got on my farm was at par with what the other villagers got. So to me, basically, that was that if I can do it, why can't a guy who actually is a farmer? And I don't really understand where this notion of organic not being able to produce enough food comes from. In fact, to that I say that industrial farming is actually dependent on fossil fuels, which we are running out of. We have another 30-40 years left. And the only way we can feed the world is through organic farming, because after fossil fuels, you have no way of growing food the current way. Also, if you just think about it logically, right? Organic farming is about building soil health and making sure that you're giving the soil more than it's actually giving to the plants to grow food. Industrial farming, on the other hand, is about giving the soil what it needs to grow the food. So basically, you're pumping the soil with hormones in a way, or steroids in a way. While you're able to grow food, you're declining the fertility of the soil, and you're not really focusing on the health of the soil. So as we've seen in the centers of green revolution in India, like the soil fertility levels have drastically come down in the last 50 years since when the fertilizer and pesticides were introduced. At the same time, aquatic life has been disappearing. Groundwater level in Punjab, you have groundwater starting at 60 feet, but farmers get the water from 500 feet because between 60 and 500 it's so polluted that it can't be used. Now, if we move over to the health issues, the common things people say are typically that I've been eating chemicals all my life. What now? So there's numerous studies that I can point you to, which basically say that once you switch over to organic food, and organic is a big part of overall a healthy lifestyle, right? It's not enough by itself, but when you make these choices for yourself, you can rid your body of all your chemical intake and residues in just a matter of 6 months. And then the last piece is about organic being really expensive, and the typical skepticism, which is across the world also, how do I really know what I'm eating is truly organic? So there, the expense issue, I mean, I won't deny that organic food is more expensive right now, but that's not really because organic is expensive to produce, right? It's more an economies of scale thing where the production of organic food is so low compared to the production of industrial food right now that for me, for example, to bring organic tomatoes to Delhi costs a lot more per unit than it would if I was dealing at the volumes of an industrial agriculture business. So again, that's something which solves itself over time, but even now, I think the perceived value of organic is a lot higher than what it actually is. Typically, we can look at an urban household to spend 3,000 to 4,000 rupees extra for a family of 4 or 5 for a month, which to a lot of people is worth it. To a lot of people, it's not, but again, that's how much you value your own health. I say organic started on this notion that there is a lot of work which is going at the grassroots. I was myself working with farmers for half a year, but I realized that there's a lot of people doing that, but what's really missing is linking them to the market, without which the entire movement is just going to fall apart, because farmers need incentives as well. If you talk to organic farmers who have moved back to chemical farming from organic, the reason they'll cite most commonly would be that it's really heartbreaking that what we produce is actually not recognized as organic, as it gets sold into the conventional markets, and the person who's finally buying it doesn't even know that the value of this product. So I basically realized that let the grassroots organizations do what they're doing. I focus on what I can do better. Very briefly, as a business, I say organic is focusing on making these products really conveniently available, and also focusing on those products which matter the most, right? So fruits, vegetables, your day-to-day groceries, because that's where the bulk of your pesticide residues are, and that's what you really need to make a difference to your health. It's taken us 50 years to move from a world which was fully organic to one which is not organic now. So let's say it'll take another 30 to 50 years now to move back to a world which is fully organic. And basically, the aim of not only what I'm doing, but I think I can speak largely for everyone involved in the organic movement, is that if the world sort of goes back to organic, it's accessible for all sections of society, and thereby basically eliminating the word organic from our dictionaries, because everything by default is organic. Thank you.